lot of these homestead channels won't show you their failures. They only show you the successes and never follow up. We just got a bunch of snow, snow apocalypse 2020, whatever year it is. And you can see there's lots of frozen stuff. If you've been following the winter series, we've been talking about how we do things, how we set things up for success. Let's go through those systems and see if we had, some successes and failures with the worst snow and ice that we've had in a long time. And there's more on the way, so that's something to look forward to. But follow me as we take the journey through the homestead in the snow and ice. So one of the biggest things that we have to deal with in the wintertime is frozen water. In this rabbit setup, this is our rabbit tractor, you can see all the frozen water. This is even an insulated waterer, but not insulated enough to keep us from getting like ice blocks in here. So we've got a couple of those, but I really like the design of that water because we can pull it, even if it does freeze, we can pull it out, turn it over, and those ice blocks come and just fall right out. So the sloping sides are sloping up this, so it creates no bottleneck for the water to come out of there. And even if we look at this thing, the design of that water is so nice. You can see where the nipple comes out, so all of that freezes, and then when it slides out, we just put some more water in there and the rabbit's happy. One of the other things that we've done is like throw a bunch of hay in here. We've overfed the rabbit. You usually want to give a half a cup to 1 cup per rabbit per day, but we just gave them so much so that they're happy. There's a lot of hay in here. This is a really insulated system. We'll clean it out now. Not how it's designed, but too much feed, a lot of hay in here that she can climb around and build a bedding in. You can see how much it's, covering up the door almost. But rabbits, they burrow. So this kind of mimics, what they would do naturally in a snowstorm. But yeah, so this system did really well. I'm happy with the way this went. Unfortunately, we did have to replace the water recently, but that wasn't this ice storm. That was just from like use, and the valves, they go bad. So we keep a couple of extra of those in the stockpile, so when we need them, we can just replace them out. So the rabbit system, big win, I would say. So we're in the garden after this ice storm, and there's 2 things that I think are useful takeaways from this example. One is that the contours and the terraces that we've talked about all the time are working really well. These slow spread and sink water into our landscape. It doesn't have to be rain. It can also be ice. We're sequestering carbon with all of the chop and drop, but also we're pulling the water and saturating the ground. As this ice thaws, that water's got to go somewhere. So we're reducing the erosion and putting it into the soil where we can use it later. It's only when the soil is fully saturated will the water then start leaching out down below hill. But you can really see how the water is soaking into the landscape as this melts. So that's takeaway number 1. Takeaway number 2 is solar aspect. So we've built this garden mostly on a south-facing slope. So if we look at here, there's far less snow than there is in other areas on the farm, particularly the road and the north-facing side, is because this is getting sun all day. So it has the largest ability to kind of thaw this ice quickly. Now that tells us a couple things, that this area is getting full sun for our garden plants. We don't want to plant in a shady spot unless that's the prescription of the plant that we're trying to grow. But most of the time, those garden variety crops are grown in full sun or mostly full sun, where we arranged and set out this garden. It gets that. So sometimes you'll hear people say, you need full sun. You want to plant your fields on a south-facing exposure. That's what we've done here. That's the takeaway. You can see it in the snow melt inside the contour lines. These terraces are getting a lot of sun, and so that makes them really ripe for growing garden variety crops. If we wanted to go trees and stuff, we could do that. We've done that with the willows, but kind of the best way to grow garden variety crops, full sun, coupled with the terraces, the swales, all that good stuff. We're taking advantage of all the resource that the landscape, God, nature gives us. One of the coolest things that we have on the farm is this outdoor wood boiler, and it allows us to heat the greenhouse, heat the shop, using byproduct from, the woods. So we've recently done a lot of tree work. We've got a lot of wood here, but this, during the storm, is what kept the plants mostly happy in the greenhouse and kept the snow and ice off the top of the greenhouse. Something that you got to be concerned about is the load that plastic can take. It's really not a lot before it starts caving in your greenhouse plastic, or if it's, the plastic sheeting, that's even less. But this heater, I love it, man. We put this thing in years ago and it paid for itself probably in the first, year or less. When I first filled up the propane, I had the greenhouse on propane, and it ran $1,000 in 2 weeks. I think it was $1,400 in 10 days, something like that. So I put this thing in. It cost $10,000 or $11,000 at the time. It's a huge chunk of change, right? But the way it works is there's a fan inside here and an aquastat. It's a thermostat, determines or tells water temperature. So you throw your wood in here. When the temperature gets below whatever you set it to, in this case it's 150, the fan turns on and it rekindles this fire and to heat up the water again. Now that's only half of the equation. The other half is the heat exchangers in the greenhouse and the piping underneath the ground. So that it's not just water that's in here, it's water and an antifreeze mix. And that allows us, the stove dies out, those lines aren't freezing and bursting. But there's pumps in the bag here that circulate that water through the ground, through insulated lines, and up into the greenhouse, that when the thermostat in the greenhouse senses the air temperature, it turns fans, and it's the opposite of your car radiator. So it forces air through a mesh of fins and blows hot air out, and you can set it to whatever you want to. At 50 degrees, 60 degrees, we can really get an all-night burn out of this thing. And as soon as the sun comes up, the greenhouse is just heated by the sun. But this wood stove, man, I love it. I don't know what they go for now, but it's money well spent, and really is a huge piece of the sustainable greenhouse and market garden. It allows us to start plants, overwinter plants, just with the power of wood heat, which we have plenty of here. So yeah, farm 2, winter, still 0. Oh, winter time in the greenhouse. I wanted to show you 2 things while we're here. These are the heat exchangers. You can see the old propane unit, but these units on the sidewall, there's 2 of them, and that circulates the heat from the fire, or the heat from the water that's heated by the fire through the greenhouse, and it allows us to have strawberries in late January before we can even work the soil outside. These are flowering, ready to go. So the greenhouse allows us to do that. Another thing that I mentioned outside was, you see all this plastic, right? You can see from years past in this back, snow has gathered on top of the greenhouse and kind of bent some of those panels. This place is probably due for a reskinning in the next handful of years or so. But something that I really is that this is a hard plastic panel and not a plastic drop cloth that you see on greenhouses sometimes. It's a little bit sturdier. Before the snowstorm came, we had the shade cloth on top. Now the shade cloth kind of reflects some of the heat, particularly during spring and summer and early fall, but this is a shade cloth. So we took this off the top of the greenhouse because if we left it, the snow and ice will settle inside the cloth, and it's much harder for that to shed as it melts. So that's something that we did to keep the greenhouse intact, to keep the greenhouse protected, so that we didn't really have any catastrophic failures. There was probably 8 or 10 years ago a snowstorm that was bad, and I had to come out here every so often and hit the side of the greenhouse with a broom and kind of clear off as much as I could, because it really does make me nervous, the snow load on these things. You can get engineered greenhouses, but snow load is something that you need to look at. That's a key component of what you need to think about when you're buying your greenhouse. But keeping the snow off the top, taking that cloth off, having heaters, that allows that snow to dissipate really quickly, and setting up your greenhouse with the right solar aspect. So it's getting pounded by the sun, and it's just melting that snow, because we don't want it on here. Those 3 ways, that's the way that we kept the greenhouse system looking good. We've got strawberries. We're about to plant seeds for next spring, but we couldn't do that if it wasn't heated, if it didn't have the right solar aspect. So farm 3, snowstorm, still 0. Did you see me trip on that shit? Yeah, always tripping out, bro. Yeah. So we made it down here to the chicken coops finally, and I wanted to talk about a couple things that we kind of change the design up. You've seen us use these tall waterers with the screw tops and the little nipple down at the bottom. When winter comes, we kind of abandon that operation and go for these cattle feed tubs. You can see this is a propane tub where the cows will get a little bit of supplemental feed, but I really like them because the shape of the bowl kind of comes out much the rabbit water, that instead of breaking ice, we just dump it out and you can see the ice chunks. That makes it really easy to get the chickens water. A rubber water jug, they sell at a Tractor Supply. You can step on them, get that ice to come out easily. You can see we didn't move these coops because it's just too much of an order, a tall order to get that done. But that's the nice thing about the system is the chickens can still go out and forage, but most of the time they've been spending inside the cover. And I'm really happy with the way the system's turned out. The roofs worked really great on our mobile chicken coop design, the human-powered chicken design, but they're still living. Everybody seems happy. We're throwing feed in there. There's a big feeder inside this thing. So as long as they have their supplemental feed, water, and shelter, that's all they really need. These solar electric fences don't do great when they're covered up with snow. So you have to come out and kind of brush them off. But the awesome thing about solar panels is as soon as a little corner gets sunlight, they transfer heat so nicely that it just melts off and sheds. So would I call this system a great success for the winter? I would say that, yeah, it's a win. You know, the farm 5 or whatever number we're on, winter 0, but still there's another storm. So I'm not trying to, test fate. But this system, there's just more moving parts to it. So it's not as efficient as the other systems. But I'm still really stoked on the way that this all worked out. This is our first year doing these mobile chicken coops in the wintertime. I guess I could have put a couple boards on there just to give them more shelter, but everybody seems happy, everybody seems healthy. But the big takeaways are: make your waterers easy, make your feed easy, make your systems kind of redundant. So if the water heater burns out up there, we've got a little bit of propane heat that can kick on. We didn't have a problem with that at all, but we just have redundant systems. So if things go wrong, we can adapt. That's homesteading at its most root cores. How can we adapt? How can we get the most amount of stuff out with the highest level of efficiency? I'm really happy with the way that the farm handled itself. Things that we didn't experience this year: waterers freezing, or the plumbing underneath the ground. We've put all the plumbing, well below the frost line. Winter's always kind of a sad time. We spend a lot of time in the shop, a lot of time in the house. It's kind of the time for reflection. So you can look at what happened last year and then make your plan better for this year. But things are looking bright. We've got a lot of tips and tricks in the free materials. Click the link in the description box. Download those things. Our spring garden prep guide, the plans for this mobile chicken coop. All this information's free. Join our community. Be a part of the people sharing ideas. We're all about making it cheaper, more abundant, and more efficient for homesteaders. That's why we give this free stuff out. You can't afford to miss it. Thanks for watching SustainableHomestead.com.